I guess the legacy doesn't end on the psychology episode. I was gonna fuel up, now I remember. Where's that zombie at? Is it just struggling to get over to me? Or does it not have any legs? Look at that stamina bar. Whew. That's bad. There she is. She was being sneaky as hell. He was a sleuth. There's a lot of looting we could be doing too that we just don't even need to do. Our locker's good, and this is the end run. This is the end run, and we out. We out. Chuck and the girl with extra pockets and learn to sell. That's the plan. -2 food, and I think we make 9. Good God, food costs are crazy in Nightmare. Or we were making 9. Drucker's a cool map, though. There's a lot to it. I've given it. It's grown on me, and the whole thing has grown on me because I loved State of Decay 1. It's in my top 3 games ever. It is number 3, and well, State of Decay 2 is now 3. It replaced 2, but when this game first came out, I just didn't seem like it lived up to the promise. It's taken me time, and it's taken the game getting better, of course. But especially the maps, in particular the maps. Trumbull was a really cool map that it came to like know like the inside and out, and that was a part of the fun to it. Is, you know, I just had like a set pattern that I would play that map in, a set way I would loot it, and maybe it became too familiar, but that familiarity was a part of what made me enjoy it so much. And not just that it was familiar, but up until like the end, when I was playing it probably too much, it just still seemed like there was stuff to find. And that's where I get to the point of this little segue. The thing about State of Decay 2 is I realize that, like the Trumbull map was stuck around, and I enjoyed it so much for so long because I always felt like I kept finding new things to do in it, new ways to play it. Like, there was like 6 bases or something to begin with. I'll build a long-term community in the church base. I'll build a long-term community in the Savini residence. I'll go over to the the guy who wrote The Walking Dead. He's got a base in that game too. Can't remember. They're all like zombie references, just like this. I just kept, with Breakdown, finding new ways to experience it. I'll build a big ass base at the fairground in the old part of Trumbull County. Hey, what's an alcoholic? What, like we're doing with State of Decay 2 now, where we've been finding challenge runs and figuring out different ways to experience this game to keep giving it some life. And in doing that, play these maps more and start to see there's a lot of things that I haven't experienced all the way. I'm at a point now where I definitely feel like I've experienced a good dose of nearly everything. Drucker would be the case though, where I was never realized there was like all those little areas to explore in the city. And there's a lot of detail that's gone in the hustle and the bustle of 3 years of every time I was playing this game, just trying to get content done, get a play, like, especially when the game first came out, and I thought it was going to be like one of these Borderlands, Destiny things where everyone's just fucking rushing to the end to see what's up. This game I was probably the most competitive in. I was super consistent with playing it, and we were bum rushed. Our community did, and our playthroughs here, we were like right up there. First in line, all the legacies are done. We ready, boy. And I never do that on games. I usually smell the roses a lot. It's just how the way I play games. We did that, and then it was like, okay, yes, that's it then. That was the wrong attitude to have, except for it was the right attitude then. It'd be the wrong attitude now, but backing away from the game at that point was the smartest thing I did to be able to play it now, because there wasn't anything more. I could have picked the maps apart and looked into them as close as I could and kept trying to figure out different ways to play, but this game did not come to life until Choose Your Own Apocalypse. Choose Your Own Apocalypse and the difficulty slider brought State of Decay 2 to life. It's half the game without it. But when they did that, when they introduced significant difficulty to State of Decay 2, that's when this game found a stride that it needed. Blood Plague became a much more interesting variation on the Black Fever, which never really even made sense, to be honest. And I know some people like Good Fox, he'll be like, oh, it needs to be random because it creates panic and dread. Not in a video game. Random deaths just piss people off, and for good reason. I like the 5-minute timer. I like the big plague increases when it's like this, when you're near the end of a run and you've managed to actually get through it. But in the beginning, obviously, it can be really frustrating. And so it brings you back in, and then they've had the Bounty Broker and the Zed Hunter pack, and then they've had Homecoming now, and Providence, and to a degree Heartland. Heartland to learn the blood play. We never talked about that. God, that was 3 episodes ago. I expanded on the story, and now I'm rediscovering that missed subplot. Now it doesn't even matter. In getting to come back with each major update, in this case, update 25 through 27, where they introduce plague territories and upgradable outposts, we have to wait a little while because she's completely exhausted. Unfortunately, it gives me a chance to go into these maps and realize Drucker, which came out with the game. Holy crap, there's things that I totally just disregarded. There's shortcuts. I still like Meager Valley the most. But to realize that when they said that, I bet this thing's the shit. Each map was as big, a little bit bigger, in fact. Why can't I attach this, though? Is this not meant to be... Oh, requires a ranged weapon. What the hell's the point of that? A choke is something you want on a damn... Yeah, it's all about the choke on the shotgun. You get that thing on there and they become scary. There's as much life in them at this point. I think that there even wasn't that to appreciate, if I can get it out. Because they went through in the Juggernaut Edition update and had, at that point, we want backpacking. 100%. Had I messed that up, I would have been so pissed at myself. Because she's learned to sew. She keeps hidden pouches. She knows sewing. She's like the ultimate looter. Yeah. I mean, if only she could get like a weird driving trait, she'd be such a good looting character. I need some gas too. I think I can load from here. They changed the map. There were more shortcuts after that in Drucker. They took out some of the rougher spots. So I don't think I was wrong ever in my initial conclusion that Drucker was not, like, fun. For some people, I fucking hated the mountains, though. I still don't like the invisible walls. I still think there's some weird things about Drucker. You can tell at the same time that there's been enough time put into the game that when you're starting to examine the nuance of the maps, you are starting to scoop the bottom a little bit. The fries are getting a little cold. I'm glad to do it because I appreciate this as an art form, video game development. I know somebody and some team of people put a hell of a lot of time and creative energy and effort into building this thing, and you want to appreciate that. But you are also playing it. So you're a part of it at that point, and if it doesn't play well, well, you can't not talk about that. Scattered survivors, fill her up. I could just to do it. I mean, how long do we need here? She's super beat up. We got to give her at least a little bit of time. Let's get to this trader. It's getting cold. The rain's rolled in today. It was 70 today. That's why I had to get a bunch of shit done, because today was like my last opportunity to really. I had a feeling today was probably going to be one of the last nice days of the year. And I think I was right in that conclusion. Well, there's that slow cooker that we've already got, so it doesn't even matter. I wish facility speed mattered more in the kitchen. Cooking's one they could do more with. I think I want a bigger community for the next one. I'm really worried, though, that what they're going to do is simplify it. I've talked about that every time I've made episodes with this playthrough in this latter half of the episodes. But it is a huge concern of mine. The game got more complex with 2. They built up features that were only a skeleton or a proof of concept in State of Decay 1, namely the survivors. Like, I think the weapon system was basically on par. At launch, I think State of Decay 1 was a better game. State of Decay 2 is now undeniably the better game and much richer. But because there's been so much more added and to it, but still, some things I'd still call on par. But when you talk about the survivor system, that is one from the beginning that was, they took it from like, here's an idea, he's got a bum knee, he was an athlete, so he's gonna get powerhouse. Really like basic, but the idea was there, the seed was there, and then they just stepped that up entirely. And then you realize, like, this is the thing that still keeps me here with State of Decay 3, not just, or yeah, just State of Decay in general. Not just that I really like zombie stuff and really like strategy, survival horror, but that is a really genuinely good system. If Borderlands' thing is that they built a technology that designs random weapons and brought the action RPG into the first-person shooter genre, and, as they would put it, are the granddaddy godfather of the so-called looter shooter, a genre that I think outside of Destiny is pretty much struggling to find an actual, like, reason for it being called a genre other than action RPG. But that's a whole nother discussion. State of Decay's survival system, where you need to build up a community, weighing the pros and cons of the cost of each member, and examining where they contribute and where they don't, and who you need, where you need people, where you need expertise, where you need material, building a crafting system on top of that. There was some Fallout, like, it reminds me of Fallout 3, which is one of my favorite games ever. I'd call it my 5th favorite game ever. There, I mean, that's probably like Asperger's when you can lay a number on games like that cleanly. It reminds me of how Fallout 3 had so much to it, and it had some areas where it's like, it goes far enough to be competent, but it isn't, it could obviously be better. And some things like the vehicles in State of Decay 2 remind me the most of the crafting in Fallout 3, where it's like, it's a thing, and they didn't half-ass it, but it also seems like it was near the end of the development cycle, and it needed to be out, and it was probably a smaller team, and it was just, yeah, get it done. Make it decent, because this is going to be a big-ass release. Back when we used to get more than one of those every 5 years. Looking at you, Halo Infinite. There used to be multiple Halo Infinites in a year, if you can imagine that. And they could do so much more with the cars, and they could be so much better. Like, it's something they haven't even really looked at. You can tell that. The Vandito. The fucking Vandito functions exactly how it did when the game first came out. They didn't like re-examine it. Again, I don't blame them. I know it there's on a smaller team. This is late in this game's life cycle. I'm not gonna sit here and beat on the drum. You promised us. No, I think we've been lucky that they've kept at it as long as they have, though. There was a little bit more to be expected considering, fuck, that they were acquired by Microsoft, and Microsoft has decided that Undead Labs is going to be one of their big studios, and State of Decay is going to be one of their big franchises. But, that being said, they really have done a good job of somehow getting bigger, but still feeling like an indie. Maybe I'm a little too... Officious is not a word, but it started with an O and I had the word. It was on the tip of my tongue. It was right there. Gotta find that word now. Gotta find that word. I think the word that fits better is exorbitant in my praise. I don't want to be over the top. I don't want to be excessive in the praise, but there's a lot of pros. And in looking up the word, officious is a word, by the way. It means assertive in authority. There you go. Some of you probably already knew that. But the vehicles, really cool idea. Clearly got packed in there. Like, yeah, there'll be an auto mechanic. Oh, and what will that do? It'll upgrade your vehicles. Did a lot of work. I know that that was a lot of work just to get those vehicles redesigned and animated and redo the physics on them and have that be a system and have that be an item and how that worked. I'm not saying they were lazy on it. They weren't. But it's one of those that never got another pass. It's one of those that people really like, but it's very shallow as a system. And the whole auto mechanic thing is shallow as a system. In some ways, every system became meaningful and lethal. But no one that I know of still says, let's hurry up and get an auto mechanic, get an auto facility up for anything other than cheaper crafting kits. Vehicle repair kits. You're not getting, for the cost of fuel, your vehicles refueled by keeping them parked. You're not getting your vehicles passively repaired by keeping them parked there overnight. I don't know what that thing's doing then, because it doesn't give you anything in the meantime. It gives you, your cars are slightly quieter. I don't know that that really helps you much. Cars still make noise. So, and noise in lethal is always dialed up to the extreme. You know, every zombie acts as a screamer. Then you have slightly more durability. Slightly more. Now, durability really does matter in lethal because these cars are made out of tissue paper. They're like driving glass. It's pretty ridiculous. But, to be fair, realistic. You're hitting people. Your car's gonna get fucked up. If you ever hit a deer, it will destroy your vehicle. Won't destroy it if you... It can be sometimes not too big of a deal, but every car that I've ever seen... I was in a car and we hit a deer. It messed the car up bad. Anyway. So I don't complain about that too much, but slight durability. I think I don't know that they needed to go through and do a big update on cars, even though that would have been pretty sweet. But, they've been lucky that... And it makes me think maybe they were thinking about lethal way back. I have no idea. But somehow most every system that they put in this game that made no balanced sense when the game first came out because the game was so easy. The systems managed, like I've talked about a lot, to not only be in balance, but to come to life when the game was brought to this new difficulty with Nightmare and Lethal, but especially Nightmare. So things like stabilizing people in urgent care You would have never messed with that outside of the tutorial. But when it came to Nightmare and Lethal, that became one of the most important mechanics. Is to trying to maintain a community is using all of your facilities and choosing the right facilities, and especially maintaining in your war against the Blood Plague, because especially once you get to Lethal, you're talking Heartland. Heartland's biggest thing is you get Blood Plague all the time, because everything's Blood Plague. And effectively in Plague territory, it's Heartland. And you got 5 minutes. I think in Heartland you get like 12 minutes. It's also been interesting to see that 5 minutes is definitely like the limit. It's always just enough time to get anywhere on the map if you drive well, if you do have a cure, or to at least try to get somebody stabilized. But if you screw around in Lethal, you're gonna find out. The game is very... It's been honed that way. There's parts of Lethal that I feel like are actually out of balance. And one of the big ones is, the biggest one I talk about all the time is very little loot on the map, but there's more shit to kill. There's more hearts to kill, which is your biggest waste of, your biggest tax on your resources. And everything also costs more to make. And to have all three of those things, squeezing the resources like that is pretty brutal. I feel like I need to get rid of her for the beds. I'm going to.
That isn't good.
I don't think that changes things. I don't think she was a part of the mission or anything.
Everyone's ready for a long fight.
I'm another 20 minutes in. The plan was to beat this tonight. I still think that can happen as long as I don't die. I'm just waiting for...
I don't want to do this, but I need you to go.
Oh, our leader to be healthy again. Oh, big stretch. Lethal zone in balance was, man, it was 77 ammo. Holy shit. What was that a part of? What was that a part of? What was I discussing? What were we discussing? I know it was about appreciating the maps and how they were made better with the update, but also I felt that I'd underappreciated them to begin with, to a degree.
That's a screamer.
I forget, so it doesn't even matter. Simplifying the game. That was the origin. I remember that now. But first, let's go and revisit that subplot. What do we learn in Heartland? The Blood Plague is changing. I thought that was cool. I thought Heartland was pretty good. And probably the best DLC they've done so far. I think I made a video on that. Pretty sure I made a Heartland review and talked about that. And even better than Lifeline, even better than Breakdown, which were their signature DLCs, especially Breakdown. But especially from a storytelling component, that's the best one they've done so far. Disappointingly, we'll learn more as we start this Trumbull playthrough. It sounds like they're not gonna go the route of the Blood Plague is like evolving, which seemed like that's a great choice. You could open up your creative toolkit because you're not, you know, it helps you explain like Slither style why you're not just dealing with zombies in this world. You're dealing with this whole new thing. Those are both terrible shots. Known as the Blood Plague and Plague Hearts, and it's fucking crazy. So it's... At one point, I know that they talked about in Daybreak that the Hearts were making zombies. Sort of like an Annihilation style within the Glimmer. How the alien in the Glimmer is designs life from replication. It takes a life form that already exists and then makes it into something new based upon its version or understanding of life. And then it begins, you know, in the, well, spoiler warning, but in the end it begins to try to make a replica of intelligence. Okay, that's what the play cards are up to, right? They're creating these zones. It started with your typical undead apocalypse thing, but in this world, the way that it's created is via this blood plague. And blood plague turns out to be a much larger thing than some bizarre infection that animates dead tissue. It's a totally new form of life. It uses human bodies as hosts, but even worse, it's twisting these bodies into new creations and can pump them out like a factory in great numbers. But it looks like what's going on in Trumbull, and I'm sure it's like Borderlands and the Lilith DLC, basically telling you, hey, this is the game, the third game, this is the direction we're taking as of right now. You get that hint ever so slightly from Lifeline that they're definitely working on making a deeper experience, especially choices. They were definitely worried, definitely digging down into how to make decisions more nuanced and complicated. Good lord, she's taking a long time to heal up. Look at that fatigue still. I mean, close combat's one of my favorites, but for our purposes, I don't know, because she's gonna have to kill some people. I just feel like health is probably better right now. And just keep going with heavy weapons. I'm not gonna plan on keeping her anyway. But it looks like Trumbull, it's like, oh, it's gone. Not only is it gone, but when you get rid of it, basically it's love and happiness, and there's huge benefits, and the planet is healed because of it, and climate change is over, and we're towards the end of this thing, even though we got a third game coming out. But the third game has zombie deer. It's totally running in that same vein that it talks about in Daybreak and in parts of Heartland, that it's changing, it's evolving, it's getting stronger, it's changing forms, it's much more nefarious than ever, and it's much more insidious than ever imagined. It's taking over the globe. Now you wipe it out in Heartland, but Heartland, what they also imply then is a one and done. It was the only area that had that happening to it. It was unique. It was a one-off freak thing. The Cleo shows up like, you've been a part of an experiment. Oh man, fourth wall, it's the Enclave. I don't even know what the hell they're doing with that. I don't know if they know. And I'm just gonna fucking go for it because I'm bored. The Coalition. It's like the Mafia. That's what they call themselves. I watched that that documentary on New York, Crime City, they call it. That's what all the Mafia bosses called themselves. They actually were all in cahoots together and owned huge swaths of legitimate businesses in New York City, including the unions, and could manipulate not just the city of New York, but the entire nation. So large was their power and so complete. And one of the reasons for that is because they had all teamed up and said, look, you get this part in New York and I get that part in New York, and we'll split it up 5 ways between the big families, and we won't mess with each other's territory, and we'll just make sure that nobody else gets in here. That was also the same thing that would destroy them. So there you go, sum that up. So there's a lot more to it. That doesn't spoil it for you. There's plenty of twists and turns and interesting stuff in there. But it reminds me of the Coalition, because that's what they were called themselves. So what is the future of State of Decay as far as the lore? That's the more important thing. Are we going to be shooting zombie deer? I think that they're implying that we're either going far, far away where this thing's not at a point where you're taking the world back, because you've kind of done that here, or the whole thing is you're getting ready for the final battle between the network and Red Talon, and what does the future look like? And there's going to be a lot of intense action, but it's less about establishing a presence. Damn if I'm not worried about them simplifying that survivor system. It's less about like getting set up and more about building out, which could be really cool, but could also be a disaster because the state of decay thing is, what would you do? That's its fundamental question. It's a zombie game that asks you, what's your plan? Because everyone's got that, right? Where would you go in a zombie apocalypse? What kind of group would you build? My plan, I've read the zombie survival guide. You gotta destroy the stairs and get to the second floor. Fill up the bathtub. Make a soundproof room for exercise. And let's rock and roll. Oh god, what are we getting? Every time I repair a door, I get down in this valley, showing that I still don't know how to drive Drucker. And a fucking feral shows up and rips the door off. So, it's not too much of a stretch to ask, okay, now how would you take territory back? How would you try to rebuild society after? And they're already hinting with that with State of Decay 2, with the whole thing of like, can you build a more permanent group? Can you become self-sustaining? That wasn't even asked of you in Breakdown. In Breakdown, you're not taking back territory. You live on the road. That's your thing. The map empties out. As you go along, there's less and less loot, even though when you do find loot, it's really good loot. That's the balance and Breakdown. But the classic State of Decay thing, there's very few cars. In State of Decay 1, cars couldn't be repaired, even though there was no fuel cost. When a car died, it was dead. Flipped, it was gone. There might be 2 cars on the whole map, and only, you know...
Looks like I found some trouble. Can anyone help me out?
Visit your neighbors to learn who has joined forces with the coalition against you. Well, I don't like this. Is there a whole other group there? Or am I... What if my headphones haven't been backward this whole time? I think they have been. Okay, well, why they're in the middle of this? Oh man, this is so risky. Oh, they may become hostile.
How about no? Not so fast.
Fuck.
Goddamn.
He's saying, God damn, but I'm the one who's worried. That's right, burn in hell, you bastards. I should have brought explosives and stuff. I was underprepared for this. Too much talking. Okay, apparently shotguns are not as good against humans as they are against zombies. Zombies will tear the hell up, but... Oh shit, I'm definitely gonna have to get to an outpost after this and get some more explosives going. Floater gas bombs. For the win.
Those are almost gone.
Gotta kill this human off like it's a damn feral.
The world today is about doing whatever's necessary to stay alive. So, not too different than all the rest of recorded history.
Dude, that was... Now see, we're having another one of these experiences where what is going on is the zombies are outright ignoring them.
Is there anyone there who can talk me through some first aid?
We'll get you patched up. Let me talk you through it.
Get some sniper support out here because these guys are being assholes. I definitely want some zombie bait and some fucking scent blocker. Okay, that time it popped her head. Why did that take so many attempts?
Could I get some sniper coverage while I'm looking around?
I'll handle it.
Okay, so much for there being no blood plague zombies. Holy shit. Thank God for the pyro launcher. Okay, that's 1 out of 4 done at the cost of nearly her life. Good thing we had sniper support. That was way, way closer than it should have been. I think that the feral actually did our dirty work there. It was the one zombie that chose not to ignore the group. We have plenty of parts, so we can repair this up, get more ammo, pop some zombie. I'm gonna pop zombie, and I'm gonna pop his Zedrenaline pills. Biolab is so clutch in lethal, it's not even funny. Get yourself a biolab, get yourself a pathologist, and regret that that has to be a RNG based get.
Those are almost gone.
Frags is good, thermite's good. Repair this up. Good on. I could definitely use more shotgun shells, and I have plenty to grab from. Grab a big stack of that. Yeah, okay, we definitely have assault. Look at all that. Strong painkillers we have plenty of. So that's good. Now what do we want? We need explosives. I know that much for sure. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna set up a pyro field.
Yeah.
And if they try to do anything funny on me when we get going, I'm gonna just fuck them up. And I'm gonna unequip this and go with what has been my favorite blunt weapon for this run, the Shaun of the Dead baseball bat. Probably. We need to gas up or anything? How are we doing there? Doing pretty good.
Who can help us? We have a problem.
We'll put our ammo for one thing in there. Oh damn it. Right in the middle of this. Sure, why not? See, this base, this whole playthrough, even before I had a Warlord, because we've done all of the major leaders, except for a trader, to get their facilities, has just had a lot of... We're going to go ahead and do primary care. I mean, we're really at the end now. Of lethal or hostile enclaves. It's weird. It's like the field of view got smaller. We're into a lot more bushes and trees. I want a field of view slider on the 3rd State of Decay. I'd love to be a little further back. I usually go with like the fisheye when I play shooters. 38. It'd probably be a longer episode because I feel like this is really near the end. Isn't it like when we go to... Maybe this one's only 2 missions long. I can't remember. Or it's possible we get attacked. I know in one of them, I'm pretty sure it's the sheriff. That's where you get attacked. It's like, oh, they're coming to town. They're this big, giant group. Reads like a lot of dystopian novels. They're coming. Let's go. Mission will fail if Kenran dies. I'll go, but you stay here. We can't afford to lose 2 medical experts. There's a real good chance she gonna die. Okay, I don't need to be looting. What am I doing? This is over. We're definitely low on chemicals and ethanol and all that shit, but I'm not worried about it. If I was smart, I would have grabbed the Cleo blast rifle, which I know is the answer to these hostile NPCs. But the pyro launcher at least stuns them. And then I can run through with a shotgun. If it works, because I feel like I'm popping them with a shotgun quite a bit and they're not going down. But I was shooting from pretty far off.
Please, we offer our medical
Okay, gotta reload. I don't know what happens with him. But grab the surgeon and escape. Well, I think it's better to kill these guys off first. And I think that our zombie is doing its job. What is he doing? He's not gonna fight the zombies off, so I gotta kill these guys quick. Oh my god, quit jumping fences. I don't want you to jump. He died. You know why he died? Zombies. He literally would not fight off the zombies. Remember in 2015 when everyone just said legitimately? Or literally, even when it was like literally. Even when it was figuratively. Well, that's where I'm at now, except that I really do mean literally. He just stood there with his arms up. I should have just grabbed him. That's what I'll do the next time. The thing is now they would be recruitable. So if you ever wanted to get more people into your lethal zone or nightmare community, that's how you do it. Just be like, yo, I'm gonna purposely fail this mission. Or I'm just gonna say no, which is also an option. Let's make sure we're completely reloaded before we do this shit. You used to be able to reload from your bag. I don't know if you can still do that or not. Are they all gonna turn negative or evil, or is it just one group? Think about this. I've done this at least 3 times now.
Yeah, sure.
Needs a rucksack of food.
Bye now.
Huh? I can't just skip across there, can I? There's probably a massive ass mountain range. Can we load rucksacks from... Maybe I should just make them leave. Oh, I got food. Alright, I'm fine with that.
Thanks, buddy.
It's not very Warlord-like to give them a bag of food to keep the peace, but it is the American way. Do you not have to talk to the other groups? I mean, that one's red. Obviously, they're going to turn against us. Damn, he really shot off there like a damn bowling ball. Or a bowling pin. Okay, if we go up... No, that's not the way. Let's go down. Let's go talk to this group that I don't think will turn against us. Maybe it's 2 out of the 4. That other group is already ready to blow our head off. Sucks, because another thing that I've done in this playthrough, we've done in this playthrough, is... Well, some of it's been me, because I did it while I was in the looting, is experience more of these stories. Just... no other focus point. Just, let's see what these are about. And it's bizarre, 3 years on, not to have known how my Auntie the Prepper ended. But I didn't. It's always been such a rushing blur. Commentary and speed. That's all that mattered. So it's been good to smell the roses a little bit. Even though it's also meant that I'm closer to being burned out on State of Decay than I've ever been. Because those 30 hours, they were cool at first. Then I started getting pretty bored. Okay. Man, I wish I know someone in the community is carrying the blast rifle around, and I just don't feel like taking the time to go through and get it done. I don't even have hardly any Clio ammo, so looks like I'm gonna keep doing it the way I'm doing it, which is a pretty sloppy, ugly ass way to do it. I'm pretty sure the Gleaners are going to turn against us. They've been ready to be against us for a long time. This is the group that was super glitchy, though. And I sold them some, Oh, they finally died.
That won't work.
Whoops. I sold them some, Good lord. Yeah, imagine doing that with the without the pyro launcher. That's why the vanilla run was probably the hardest run. Which is nuts. It was 225,000 influence
That's a screamer.
to buy the prestige stuff back.
I'm already full up.
I don't want the red talent thing because she's a warlord.
Is there anyone there who can talk me through some first?
Some of that trauma you just can't get by. It's there permanently.
To give advice for.
Sid, we're gonna miss you when this is all over with, Sid. You were a breath of fresh air last night. Okay, the red talent backpack is just red. Eliminate the zombies to check for survivors. Haven't eliminated the zombies? I can already tell you, there's no survivors.
Anyone alive in here?
Fuck no. This group is dead. Problem solved. Something people talk about and I agree with is these groups that have some crazy, crazy trade inventory, that needs to be there. In the next game, they need to have their locker. Basically, like you can have it be ramsacked through and the zombies have destroyed some of it and other groups have come through and looted it. That's cool. But they still need to have at least some portion. And on higher difficulties, I think all of their stash there. Those guys were glitched out hard and had a permanent inventory of 1,000 5.56 rounds that I could just keep going over there and buying. And I had some extra prestige facilities. And I'm not worried about the bounty broker. I'm going to save that stuff for the next community. And told you that the cost 225,000 influence. In other words, Undead Labs really, really don't want you buying the Red Talon Daybreak stuff on anything outside of Prestige. Daybreak has been made ever so slightly easier because they up the ammo stacks, but it's still fundamentally repetitive and a pain in the ass. Which is why, full transparency, I don't do it anymore.
Hello? Anyone there? Looks like no one's home. Better find out why.
There is a lot of murdering in the Warlord playthrough, but I think one of the original arguments still stands that if you want to be a Warlord, you should be able to just go around and kill. It's time being run by a town with a coalition. We're here to help. She's basically the sheriff. We're the bad guys. You should get to really be the bad guy, and that should come with its own set of bad guy things. Being shitty to people in your own community at less of a cost of food. But you can recruit more people, build an army. I mean, you can go crazy with it. People have some really creative ideas with that stuff. The Denzians. Let's go to our favorite outpost and repair our car. Well, 50 minutes.